And welcome back to another episode of Massholes with Mike's three-man show, Week 11 preview, along with Patriots and Falcons. We have Jordan, Kyle joining myself, Jeremy. Jacqueline could not be with us today, but she will hopefully be back with us on Monday for a special 15 questions episode. Just 15 questions is all we're going to do around the NFL next week for Thanksgiving week. But there are still games at hand. Week 11, not necessarily the best slate. I would say that there are a couple of marquee games, and we will definitely get to that. But we have to start like we normally do on these picks episodes now with our locks, upsets, and games to watch will be last. So, Jordan, I'm going to start with you. What is your lock of the week?
My lock is the San Francisco 49ers over the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars had a very impressive showing a couple weeks ago against Buffalo, but they're still the Jaguars. I think the Niners have kind of found their swagger a little bit, and the talent disparity is quite extensive, so I'm going with San Francisco.
I mean, it was a great call on your part when it came to picking the Niners on Monday Night Football. I know you and Jacqueline, I believe, had that. Me and Kyle had the Rams, and that didn't necessarily work out for me and Kyle. But my lock, and I'm going to go next here, is actually I'm using a little bit of, not reverse psychology, but reverse jinxing, because I'm going to lock the Packers over the Vikings. Sean Hockley is the ref for that game, and home teams are 1-8 in their last 9 games with Sean Hockley at the helm, and the Vikings are at home. The Vikings have no business winning this game, but the way I see it, it's a win-win. Either I win my lock or the Vikings win the game. I don't have high hopes for this team. I'm not going to lie. I feel like they played well against the Chargers, so they're automatically due for another skid, and it's going to happen this week against Aaron Rodgers and company. They haven't faced each other yet this year. A little bit late into the season, in my opinion, to really start playing your most hated division rival. I know the Patriots and the Bills, obviously, will be following that same method. It just seems kind of late. But yeah, I'm going to be taking the Packers to lock over the Vikings this week. Kyle?
Yeah, I'm playing it kind of safe. I'm going to take the Bucks over the Giants only because, I mean, the Giants are an awful football team, unserious at times, and the Bucks are coming off of getting absolutely punched in the mouth by Washington, so I think that they're going to come out and be pretty fired up.
I don't know if you saw, but Tom Brady's press conference was like, what, a minute and 43 seconds or something like that?
Yeah, I think he took like 3 questions and then left.
Exactly. I mean, if that's all the motivation you need to see like a fired up Tom Brady, the Giants could be in trouble. Not that I would be disappointed in that. I think that it's going to be a close game simply for the fact that, for whatever reason, Brady and the Giants always play in marathon games that are exciting, but we'll see what happens. All right, moving on to the upsets. Kyle, since you went last, I'm going to let you go first here. What is your upset of the week?
Before I get into that, I will say, you mentioned fun marathon games. I'm pretty sure last year the Bucks and the Giants played it really close. The Giants covered and it ended on like a missed 2-point conversion attempt that would have sent it to overtime, I believe.
And I think the pass went to Dion Lewis.
I believe. I think you're
I'm
right.
Not mistaken.
And they should have been. People were mad.
But
I remember Antoine Winfield was the guy covering whoever it was, and I think it was Dion Lewis, Jordan. And people were mad because they thought it should have been PI, but I just thought it was funny at the time. Sorry, Kyle. Go on.
My upset, I don't really know if this counts as an upset. I'm pretty sure this is what I had as my upset. No, this is what my upset was last week. It's what it was 2 weeks ago. I have the Eagles beating the Saints. It's only a 4-5 over a 5-4, but there weren't a lot of games I looked at that looked like real upsets this week, and I think that the Saints have been playing. I mean, I guess they lost last week, but they still played a pretty solid game, and the Eagles have been playing good football right now, so I like the Eagles in this game.
All right, I was the middleman before. I'm going to go middle again. I'm going to take the Steelers to upset the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. And it's not so much the fact that the talent disparity is all that big. I mean, Roethlisberger may or may not be back. At the time that I'm making this pick, he has not cleared COVID protocols. But my rationale is it's the Chargers in primetime. Much like the Bengals, much like the Vikings in primetime, you can usually count on the Chargers to crap themselves. Justin Herbert, I think, has kind of exposed himself as being, I guess the Chargers offense in general, kind of exposed to being a real one-dimensional thing. They cannot run the ball at all. TJ Watt could have a massive game, and we know how the Steelers like to get up for these big games. This is going to be in SoFi Stadium, primetime Sunday night. I like the Steelers here in a big spot to try and, I guess, catch Baltimore, who tripped up last week against Miami. They get the Bears this week, which was my secondary lock. If either of you guys had taken the Packers over the Vikings, I had the the Ravens over the Bears. But the Steelers need to keep pace, and I think they're going to get a win on Sunday night. Jordan.
Yeah, mine was going to be the Eagles over the Saints as well, but I'm going to take a different one, and it's more just a homer pick. I think Indy has a legitimate shot of beating the Bills this week in Buffalo. And the reason why I think it's it should be considered an upset pick. Obviously, Buffalo is one of the best teams in the AFC, but also it's in Buffalo. Indy, I think Carson Wentz has played pretty well this year. I know he's had a couple of clunkers here and there, but I mean, it's the NFL. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was turning the ball over left and right in September. Like, this year's been ridiculous, and Carson Wentz having a resurgence in Indy is no exception to the ridiculousness of the NFL season. I think the Colts have a legitimate shot here, and I'm more so rooting for it. I'm wishing on a star that the Colts win, so that way the Patriots are in a much better spot with the division. But I think Indy's got a good shot there.
And speaking it into existence, I like that strategy, especially with the Bills favored by 7 against Indy in Buffalo, as you said. Moving on to the game of the week, and I'm going to start here. I think I'm going to take the most obvious chalk pick off the board and see if you guys concur or you want to go in a different direction. It's got to be the Cowboys visiting the Chiefs. Originally, I didn't know that this game was in Arrowhead. I thought it was in Jerry World, which would have made it all that much better. Fox has the game. They've gotten 2 Chief games in the past 3 weeks, which is kind of weird. They got the Chiefs and the Packers, and now the Chiefs and the Cowboys for whatever reason. But, I mean, Dak Prescott against Patrick Mahomes, another media slobfest, if you ask me. Fox is going to be very happy to get this game. It's going to get a lot of viewers, especially because we know Cowboys-Patriots always does really good numbers. I mean, Cowboys-Chiefs, can you imagine the ratings bonanza that this is going to bring in for Buck and Aikman? I am very excited to watch this game. I'm actually going to, and there's a little bit of a precursor to the pick graphic that will go out on Sunday, I am going to be picking the Cowboys in the road win because I think that the Chiefs, while they did smoke the Raiders kind of proved themselves to be fraudulent over the last couple of games, excuse me. So I'm going to be taking the Cowboys, but I mean that's going to be a hell of a game to watch. Kyle did predict the downfall of the Raiders. Sorry, Kyle, you want to do the voice, or are you still stuffed up?
I'll be fine.
Okay.
The Raiders.
Yes, yes, I have missed that voice. All right, Kyle, you can go with your game to watch.
Well, speaking of the Raiders, I will be talking about the Raiders and the Bengals as my game to watch because it's 2 5-4 teams that, both started really solid and both had, looked like they were legit and have sort of started to taper off. And these two teams are both in need of a big statement win to show, hey, we're not out of this. Both of their divisions, both those teams were on top of their division, have both started to slip away. So both those teams need to make up grounds. It's going to be a really important game for them. I originally had the Cowboys and the Chiefs, but I just quickly changed it.
Yeah.
I will say it. This is controversial, but I love this Cowboys team. I love watching the Cowboys play this year. They are fantastic. I know Cowboys are supposed to be the team that everyone roots against and everyone loves to hate, but I love this Cowboys team right now. They are a fun group.
I think that also is a byproduct of the other teams, especially in the NFC. Like, I hate the Bucks. I think that's been kind of well documented ever since Brady went there, and they're a wagon, and they're the favorite now, so nobody likes them. The Packers, same thing, especially with the Rodgers drama that's come out the last couple of weeks. There are just a lot of eminently hateable teams in the NFC. So when you think of the fact that you don't like the Cowboys, you're predisposed to not like the Cowboys, and they actually put out an entertaining product, they're an exciting team, and loaded with stars like they normally are, they look better by comparison because it's like, okay, I actually have real reasons to hate these other teams, but the Cowboys is just kind of like a tradition, so to speak, so they're more likable this year than they have been in past years. Jordan, are you going to agree with me, or are you going to pick a different game to watch that you want to spotlight here?
I'm going to pick a different game because I'm curious. I'm big on those teams that are kind of on the bubble of making the playoffs, so my game to watch, and again, kind of a homer pick because the dude's jersey is over my right shoulder. It's going to be on the left. It's going to be on the left of the people watching the YouTube video. But Cam Newton might be starting on Sunday. I don't know if that's been confirmed.
I think
or
all
not.
signs point to him. He probably will be, from what I saw today.
So Cam Newton's first start back in Carolina. By the way, nature's healing. It was actually really refreshing seeing him playing for the Panthers again. Going against the Washington football team, who they're 3-6, right? Yeah, Sorry, I scrolled past them. Yeah, they're 3-6, but they're coming off a very impressive victory against Tampa Bay. And this is kind of the point last year where they started to make some noise quietly and start trickling towards the playoffs. Now, I know Chase Young's out for the season. That's a huge blow. But will this be similar to last year where they can kind of rally around each other, play inspired football and down the stretch of the season, and make an outside run at the playoffs, or have an outside shot at making the playoffs? And again, Carolina's 5-5. They're right there. If my upset pick, or Kyle's upset pick, and the Panthers end up winning, the Panthers end up jumping into second place in the NFC South. They're right on the outside of the playoffs. It's a very interesting matchup. I think it could be a very exciting game, despite them both being, relatively mediocre teams.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I know that they said that Ron Rivera has a special like set of plays that he knows how to kind of bottle up Cam Newton. Now we'll see if that actually is true or if he's just kind of BSing, trying to put that into Cam Newton's head. But I, for one, am very interested to see that. Moving on, we are done with the regular picks, and now it's time for the Patriots part of it. But before that, they obviously are on Thursday Night Football this week. They don't usually get on Thursday night a lot. Obviously, teams will usually go one time, maybe two if they're the defending champs and they get to open the season, or they're playing a Thanksgiving game. Thursday Night Football, just not as big a thing. For teams, it's very rare actually, because like teams will repeat on Monday night. For instance, the Giants are, the Bears I think will be later in the year, but you don't repeat on Thursday night unless you're opening the season. So the question is, do you guys like Thursday Night Football? I know I have my own feelings on it, but I kind of wanted to gauge the room first before I go into it. So Jordan, I'm going to start with you on this.
I mean, I don't love it from a player safety standpoint. First and foremost, it is not good for the players especially those that are playing on Sunday. Obviously, if you come off a bye week or whatever, it's whatever. You're playing a shortened bye week, I guess you could say. But the product itself, I think the matchups have actually been pretty good this year by and large. I know last week was a major upset with Miami beating Baltimore at home, which was crazy. Tua with a broken finger winning. I think the product itself is improving based on just the matchups, and the games themselves are a lot closer. That being said, though, from a player safety standpoint, it's not good for the sport. You're risking injury, and I don't know what the numbers are looking like for when it comes to injuries related to Thursday Night Football after a short week or whatever, but from that standpoint, I would not mind them trying to find a way to play on Friday or Saturday. I know they're going to be competing with college football if they do that, but I don't necessarily love the idea of Thursday Night Football, even if the product is looking good on the field.
Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been kind of mid on Thursday Night Football, not because of like the matchups or anything. I feel like for a while the matchups were always really bad, and it was kind of like, why the hell would I want to watch the Jags and the Dolphins last year play each other?
That was a bad game. I remember that game.
I think part of it is that I'm always doing something Thursday night. Like, I'm always busy. Like, Thursday night isn't just like a night where I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to stop everything to watch. Like, Sunday, I'm going to stop and everything I'm doing to go watch football. Like, that's just what it is. But Thursday in my mind, even Monday too, like Monday I'll still watch it, but like Thursday is just, there's just something about it that it, like, in college I'd have class that night. In high school I'd have hockey Thursday night. So like I was never watching the Thursday night games. We used to always record during the Thursday night games, so I would miss the first half and then would, if it was close down the stretch, I'd tune in. But like, I'm not really watching a lot of Thursday night football. I mean, I will watch this week because the Pats are on, but overall, it's just kind of like, it will always be kind of the little brother of all the matchups. Like, I don't ever think it will ever be as hyped as any other prime time or, like a 1 o'clock game,
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think the Thursday night matchups have largely been pretty solid this year in terms of just entertaining games. Like, who could have thought the Packers and the Cardinals game would have had so much impact at the start of the year when they were scheduling out these games? Like, I don't think anyone saw Arizona being undefeated and hosting Green Bay with one loss, with basically the number one seed in the NFC on the line. I don't mind Thursday night football. The product is usually bad, as in it's sloppy. There's a lot of penalties, turnovers, just overall there isn't that same crispness that you get when you're watching a regular Sunday game. But I like the mini bye. The mini bye, I think, for teams is big, especially for ones such as the Patriots. They have to get through this slog against Atlanta, but then you get a lot of time off to prepare for the number one seed in the AFC and the Titans coming into town the following week. So this year in particular, I really like Thursday night football because the opponent is worked out, hopefully speaking. Like, I mean, if Atlanta will give them a run for their money, and I'm gonna talk about that with my final prediction for scores, but having that mini bye to face Tennessee the next week is big. Jordan?
Yeah, and I think especially this year, from a Patriots standpoint, you look at how last game ended against Cleveland. You blew them out of the water. You got Mac Jones out of the game. You got your top receivers. I mean, outside of Kendrick Bourne, because Kendrick Bourne, I guess, is a psychopath and wants to play every snap. But you got most of your starters out of the game. Trent Brown was able to get spelled towards the end. Michael Onwenu only played 40% of snaps. So you are in about as good a position as you can be for a short week as the Patriots are, or as you can be, the Patriots are. So from a homer standpoint, I love it this year.
Yeah, exactly. The homer angle always brightens the mood. Kyle?
I will say one last thing on Thursday Night Football. You mentioned that like it's always very sloppy. I've always felt that Thursday Night Football is kind of like the Twilight Zone. Like, really weird stuff always happens on Thursday night. Like, the Ravens show up and just completely forget how to play football. Like, Thursday night always has, like, the weird... Not necessarily the weirdest scores, but just, like, the weird players go off, you know? Good teams have really bad games. Bad teams look like they're, you know, the second coming of Jesus. It's such a weird night. Like, football is broken every time it's played on Thursday.
Agreed. There was a couple of years ago, if you guys remember, we were playing basketball during it, so we only caught the final like highlights on our phones. It was a Dallas-New Orleans game where New Orleans was, I think, like 10-1. Dallas was like this young upstart. They were really trying to come back. It wasn't the early DAC teams. I think it was the second time around that they made the playoffs. They won a game and then lost in whatever round that they lost. I don't remember who they lost to, but the point being, the Thursday night games have the tendency to turn teams on their heads. I mean, Kyle spent a long time talking last week about how the Ravens were amazing. The Ravens are the team to beat in the AFC, and then they went out and laid an absolute stinker. And truth be told, I think all of us have had that so far this year. I mean, I think I've gone 0 for 2 on my lock so far this year that we've been doing this segment. So I mean, it's not great, but hey, if we can reverse jinx the Patriots into the number 1 seed, if we keep doing this, I'm okay with it. All right, moving on to the actual game. Couple of news and notes before we get into X factors and finally predictions. Chase Winovich activated off of IR, whereas Josh Uche is heading onto it. I believe Malcolm Perry was released off of IR to make room for Uche. I think Winovich may have been on the PUP list now that I'm thinking about it, and that was what he got activated off of. Damian Harris looks like he's going to clear concussion protocol in time for the game against the Falcons. No word. I don't know if that's necessarily going to affect Ramondre Stevenson's workload, though. Obviously, Harris coming off a concussion, you may want to keep him on a little bit of a pitch count, knowing that Stevenson is the rookie, probably has fresher legs, and you're going to need both of them by the time the end of the year rolls around. So it's going to be interesting to see. So, Patriots heading down into Atlanta, into that amazing stadium that I love so much, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, with all the electronic ads, the massive scoreboard in the middle, and the site where they won Super Bowl 53 and Mac Jones won the SEC title game just in January? No, late December, actually, or late December, something like that, against Florida and Kyle Pitts, who we will be matched up against again on Thursday. So, let's start with X Factors. Does anybody have one that they want to bring up right away? Anyone have the inkling to lead on this one, or should I get going? Kyle, you want to start?
Yeah, mine's going to be, I'm saying J.C. Jackson, but it's really just going to be whoever's guarding Kyle Pitts. Because Kyle Pitts is a huge part of this offense. He's an explosive. He's a dynamic tight end. I mean, he's going to go down, I think, based off of his early performances this year as, like, one of the best tight ends to do it of his generation. Like, he just looks like he is that dude. I forget who it was. I think it might have been Jordan who said that when we had that question on 10 questions where it was like, oh, who should the Jets have taken instead of Zach Wilson? And he said Kyle Pitts, Jordan, which was a great take because he was easily the best non-quarterback player in that draft.
It was an easy pick for Atlanta in hindsight, but you may look back on it and say, couldn't we have gotten a quarterback to replace Matt Ryan? Who knows? But, I mean, it was pretty much a no-brainer pick for them because they knew that San Francisco was going to take a quarterback.
No, they're just going to take the Liberty kid.
Oh, Malik Willis. That's right. Forgot about that.
That would be something.
That would be very interesting. But so your X factor is J.C. Jackson or whoever guards Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, whoever's going to be on Kyle Pitts. I mean, I think is Cordell Patterson healthy? I don't remember.
He's a game time decision is what they're saying. I think he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. Those are obviously not easy to deal with, especially you're just going to have to shoot it up with something and try and get out there. But who knows? He may be like half of what he usually is. And he's the do-everything guy for the Falcons, obviously. Leads the team in rushing with only 300 yards. How bad is that? He's really high up there in receiving for the team as well. But I'm going to go and just kind of piggyback off of what Kyle said. My X factor is actually Kyle Duggar. He's been unbelievable, and he's showing that he's been worthy of that second-round pick that Bill used on him in the draft just last year. And people were wondering, honestly. I was kind of wondering. I said, okay, maybe he's going to be solid, but not exactly what I would have wanted from a second-round pick. He's slowly starting to round into it. He had another interception last week off of Baker Mayfield on what was a pretty bad throw, but he still made the good read on it and was able to rush it down inside the 10-yard line. So I'm going to give him credit for that, and I'm going to say, look, you get Kyle Pitts this week, and I'm sure that he's going to have help. There's no way he's going to go one-on-one with Pitts all that often, but you look at this Falcons receiving core. Patterson is hurt. Calvin Ridley is gone right now because of mental health. Just he needed some time off, and who can blame him on honestly playing for Atlanta? Hayden Hurst as the other tight end to play with Pitts. You have to shut down Pitts because he is their best weapon by a lot. Otherwise, it's going to be like Olamide Zaccheaus or something like that. So, you know
UVA
what?
legend Olamide Zaccheaus.
Exactly. You have to double him. You have double Pitts, that is, not Zaccheaus. Double Pitts at all costs.
You can double Zaccheaus, too. You'll be fine. You have nobody else.
I think Duggar's going to be front and center on the coverage on him. Jordan, your X factor here.
Mine's a guy who's been playing out of his mind the last couple of weeks. He says he's finally healthy. I know I was really hard on him earlier on in the season. Kyle Van Noy, I think, as a pass rusher and also covering a running back out of the backfield, I think he's going to have to take that responsibility, as I think Jackson and Kyle Duggar will be taking their turns covering Kyle Pitts, depending on the down and distance and where they're on the field and whatnot. But Kyle Van Noy is going to have his fingerprints all over this game, especially since he's a vet. It's a short week. He's been playing really well lately. I like when he gets momentum, he starts playing like a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, and he's not that kind of player overall. But once he gets his swagger, again, this is not football, but like Hansel Robles, when he started getting on his run, you're like, this dude's nasty. Like when Kyle Van Noy's starting to feel it, you're like, he might be due for like a good 4 or 5 straight weeks where he's just one of the best defensive players on the field. So.
How the mighty have fallen that Kyle Van Noy is now being compared to Hansel Robles.
It's about that. It's about the moxie, and he's got it. He's got swagger, and I started to really
also the Patriots' best advertising player as well. His commercial, he does very well in commercials.
So easily. I think I got my swagger back.
Exactly. Kyle Van Noy is my X factor for that reason.
All right, and we're going to wrap up this episode here with score predictions. So I'm going to lead here and let you guys think because I already wrote mine into the spreadsheet. I'm going to take the Patriots 27-23. It would not surprise me at all if one point in this game the Falcons have a 14-0 lead. We touched on it earlier. Guess what? It's Thursday night football and weird crap happens. This game is going to be a war. Whereas I was a little bit more worried in past games, like I wanted them to blow the doors off of the Jets. I wanted them to blow the doors off of the Panthers. And I was very impressed, and I took a lot from the score in the games against the Chargers, where it really didn't feel like the Chargers ever had anything, and the Browns, who they absolutely smoked. This game, I don't care what the score is. As long as you get out of Thursday Night Football with a win, that is the most important thing because it's Thursday night. Like I said, I think the Falcons will go up 14-0 at a point. They're going to start running the ball and turning the ball over like they normally do because they can't run the ball, but for some reason they like to hammer it a lot. It's like Arthur Smith still thinks that he's got Derrick Henry. It's bizarre. But I think the Patriots are going to be very ground and pound early, kind of feeling out their opponents. Mac Jones may look a little shaky early on, but I think they're going to right the ship enough, and I think there's going to be another defensive TD to go along with that in order to get the Patriots the 27-23 victory. Either one of you guys have an inkling on going in? Okay, Jordan, you can go right ahead.
So for starters, I want to say that now that Jacoby Myers has a touchdown, I'm 100% banking on him getting another one this week. Like it's going to happen. It's like the monkey off the back type deal. It's like he got one, he's going to get another this week. I don't think this game's going to be particularly close. I know I said like last week or maybe it was 10 days ago, however long ago, I was talking about one of the best teams that nobody's talking about, and I said Atlanta. Well, that was stupid of me to say that because they're not very good.
Absolutely,
they got
demolished.
They got bent over a table by the Dallas Cowboys, and I think they are going to run away and hide for the rest of the season. They're banged up royally across their offense, and I think this game's not going to be particularly close. I have the final score at 33-21. I think it'll be because of a garbage time TD. I think it'll be an absolute throttling on the Patriots' part. And I agree with you that I think there'll be a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown on like a blocked punt or something. They're not going to return a kick for a touchdown, though.
All right. Kyle, wrap us up here.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, except I think it's going to be even more of a blowout. I'm taking the Pats 38-14. There isn't anything I haven't seen from them in the last couple weeks that would show me. I mean, yeah, sure, it is Thursday night and stuff. Weird happens. I know I was the one who said that earlier, but there hasn't been anything I've seen in the last few weeks that showed me that this team's going to stumble against a team like the Falcons. They were able to absolutely slap aside a solid Browns team, a Browns team that's much better than this Falcons team. And as much as I was praising Kyle Pitts earlier, he pretty much is it for them, other than Cordell Patterson, who might not even play. So if you can lock down Pitts, there's really nothing else the Falcons are going to show you that you can't stop. So I think that I do agree. I think there will be a defensive touchdown. I think the fact that the Pats got to rest some of their starters will be helpful, but then at the same time, The Falcons also got to rest their starters because they played so poorly. So
They
is
played on
fair.
the opposite end of the spectrum.
that is
that's a
very
very
fair.
good point.
So, but I do think that will help, and I think that I'm just going to take, in this case, just on a short week, the better coach, who's going to be able to get his guys ready to go on that with that quick turnaround.
Just to end the episode here, I want to ask Jordan a question because I definitely asked this to you, Kyle, on Monday. Jordan, is your faith starting to get a little bit more restored in Bill Belichick? Are you really starting to believe that the coaching is having more of an impact now than it did even early in the season, and we can go all the way back to last season?
Yeah, I mean, something had to have changed. There's no way. I mean, I get that there was a lot of new faces in that defense, but they played so pedestrian-like the first 4 or 5 weeks, or 6 weeks. Once the Dallas game ended, it's been a completely different defense.
So
the
you can subscribe to this if you want. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. It is Felger and Maz, and I understand there is a predisposition against them, especially in this region, from a lot of fans. But what they say is this: Devin McCourty did call out the coaching, after the Dallas game. If you remember, there was that 3rd and 25. They gave up like a 24-yard completion, and Zerline kicked the game-tying field goal. Afterwards, McCourty said something to the effect of, "What are we doing out there? This is absolutely bizarre that we're in this coverage." And since then, the headshots, the camera shots of Steve Belichick have mysteriously gone down and down and down, whereas they're only looking at him like once a game, and it seems as if Bill Belichick is actually taking control of the defense now more and more. Is that a coincidence to how they've been playing? It's really up to you to decide, but they've been a lot better defensively since the Dallas game, so maybe Bill's having an effect on the defense as well. Sorry, you can go on. My bad, I cut you off.
No, I mean, that's really it. I think defensively, something changed after that Dallas game, and whether it's Bill taking more responsibility or just simply, maybe it's Gerard Mayo getting more responsibility. It's not as much Steve Belichick, even though and I'm willing to bet, we talked after the Bucs game about how Steve Belichick had the game of his life. I'm willing to bet that was Bill too. And they gave it back, to Steve because they're like, this game, it's not as big in terms of, the magnitude on national TV or, standings wise, like you really want Bill to waste some of his magic on the Houston Texans, and maybe he did that in the second half because the defense was much better the second half of that game too.
Seriously.
But I never doubted Bill Belichick, the coach. It was the GM that was starting to concern me the last couple of years, and based on the drafts the last couple of years, he's looking like he may have dipped into that spider tack, and now he's chucking 95 again because he's drafted some studs the last 2 years.
Last year, you want to talk about Duggar, Uche, and there was someone else from that draft. Thank you. And on Onwenu, this year you have Mac Jones, Christian Barmore, and Ramondre Stevenson as 3 of your first 4 picks. Obviously, Ronnie Perkins, the jury is still out on, but you talk about like at least triples, if not home runs, on all 3 of those picks. Stevenson, Barmore, Mac Jones, high picks, big on talent. It's not like he's coaching up a 6th-round pick to play out of his talent level. These are like big name guys, and he's getting the most out of them, and that, I agree, is definitely where my faith has been restored a lot more when it comes to Bill Belichick. Any final thoughts we got before we want to wrap up here? Yes? No? Maybe? All right. I want to see also over-under. It's like 2.5 on 28-3 references, especially if they hit the score. Could be very interesting to monitor in the game tomorrow, because obviously this is a rematch of everybody's favorite Super Bowl 51. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you to Kyle and Jordan for joining me. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at MassWithMikes, where you will see our picks graphic for all the games this week, and our locks, upsets, and games to watch. Massholes with Mikes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Again, thank you to Jordan. Thank you to Kyle. We will see you guys next week. 15 questions edition of Massholes with Mikes around the league, all the different topics. We'll see you then. Have a good one, everybody.